Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we are diving into a story that has stirred the South African political landscape and left quite a few tongues wagging. We're talking about Lord Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, a name that's been making headlines, not because he was fired, as some media outlets and even members of the EFF would like you to believe, but because of the very human and surprisingly relatable reasons behind his departure from the National Police Commissioner office under former President Jacob Zuma. Yes, you heard that right. Contrary to the narrative circulating online, Lord Mkhwanazi was not shown the door. In fact, he was the one who requested to be released from his duties. And when we unpack the details, it paints a picture not only of political tension but also of the kind of challenges that come with navigating the corridors of power in South Africa's complex policing and political structures. For years, Mkhwanazi has been a respected figure in law enforcement circles. Known for his commitment to professional policing and his unwavering stance on integrity, he often found himself at odds with political interference and bureaucratic bottlenecks. And that's exactly what he cites as his reason for asking President Zuma to release him. Working under Minister Nathi Mthethwa and certain other officials had become, according to him, increasingly difficult. Now, let's pause here for a moment. Think about it. A senior police official, at the height of his career, voluntarily asking to step down is not something we see every day. In a system where loyalty and public perception often outweigh operational effectiveness, it's almost unheard of. But Lord Mkhwanazi's move reflects a candid acknowledgement of the political realities within South Africa's policing structure. He recognized that continuing in a role where political interference was constant could compromise his integrity and the ability to perform his duties effectively. This brings us to a broader discussion about political interference in law enforcement. Mkhwanazi's testimony and statements at the Nhlanhla Commission have highlighted systemic challenges that police officers face when political considerations clash with professional policing. The issue isn't unique to Mkhwanazi. Across the globe, and certainly in South Africa, law enforcement officers are often caught between the expectations of political leaders and the demands of their professional responsibilities. And it's in this tension that Mkhwanazi made a choice, one that may not have been glamorous, but was certainly principled. Of course, the media coverage of his departure was immediate and, in many cases, speculative. Headlines suggested he had been fired, or worse, removed due to underperformance or political misalignment. The EFF, as expected, used this narrative to push a political agenda, framing his exit as another example of alleged corruption or political instability under President Zuma. But as Mkhwanazi himself clarified, the reality was entirely different. It wasn't a dismissal, it wasn't a punitive measure. It was a personal decision, a move taken to protect both his career and his ability to serve the public effectively. Now, here's where it gets interesting. While Mkhwanazi's departure might seem like a straightforward administrative decision, it also reveals the kind of behind-the-scenes dynamics that the public rarely sees. Working under Minister Nathi Mthethwa, Mkhwanazi encountered not just policy disagreements but interference in operational matters, decisions about appointments, resource allocation, and priority investigations. For someone committed to professional policing, these interferences aren't just minor annoyances, they directly affect the effectiveness of the police service and the safety of communities. And this is why his choice to step down is so compelling. It wasn't about ego or politics. It was about principle. And if you think about it, that's almost a luxury in today's political climate, a luxury that allows one to walk away with integrity intact, rather than stay and compromise core values. Of course, we have to consider the public perception side of the story. South Africans are no strangers to controversies involving senior police officials. Every departure or appointment is dissected, debated, and politicized. Mkhwanazi's case could easily have been painted as a scandal, but instead, it serves as an important lesson about the realities of leadership within government structures. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step aside when circumstances threaten your ability to serve effectively. But let's add a touch of humor here because politics in South Africa really lacks it. Imagine being a senior police officer, juggling criminal investigations, public expectations, and political interference, and then having a media headline scream, "Mkhwanazi fired by Zuma." It's almost like getting blamed for being too honest. One can almost picture him sitting at his desk, sipping his coffee, shaking his head, and thinking, "No, I resigned. I wasn't fired. But thanks for the drama, media." And that, in essence, is what makes this story captivating for a YouTube audience. It's about power, principle, and politics colliding in a way that's both instructive and, in a strange way, entertaining. It's a reminder that even in serious political contexts, there's always room for a little levity and for recognizing the very human decisions behind headlines. As we reflect on this, it's also worth noting the timing of Mkhwanazi's revelations at the Nhlanhla Commission. The Commission has been probing a number of sensitive matters in South Africa, and his testimony adds an important dimension. It's not just about his personal career, it's about illustrating the operational pressures and political entanglements that senior police officials face. For reform-minded viewers, this serves as a case study in the need for clear boundaries between political leaders and law enforcement agencies. So, what's the takeaway here? Lord Mkhwanazi is a professional who prioritized integrity over optics. He chose to step down rather than compromise his principles. His story challenges the popular narrative of scandal and disruption and reminds us that not every headline represents the full truth. And in a landscape where politics often overshadows performance, his decision is both courageous and instructive. Now, before we wrap up, let's engage with you, our viewers. What do you think about Lord Mkhwanazi's decision? Would you have walked away from such a high-profile position if faced with political interference? Or is it better to stay and fight from within? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we want to hear your perspective. And while you're at it, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our in-depth coverage of South African politics and the stories that matter. See you next time.